Okay, so as I mentioned, my name is Aaron. I'm part of the, internal steering committee that's helping drive enhanced campaigns and basically the improvements of enhanced campaigns to AdWords across Southeast Asia. So throughout the course of today, just a bit of housekeeping, I want to give you guys the opportunity for some Q&A. So again, conscious of time, I will try to allocate as much as we can for a bit of back and forth. I'll direct your attention to the chat pane that is on the right-hand side of your, rather left-hand side of your screen. It's probably the best spot for you to fire away some questions. In the event that we can't get to all of your questions, all of them are being recorded in the pane, and we will email you back direct responses. In the event that they apply to more than one question, we'll make sure that everybody gets an answer so that we can move forward and everyone has the same level of information. Okay, so to get started, just to quickly review our agenda, talking about this as an overview for Enhanced Campaigns. And as I said, Enhanced Campaigns is kind of the biggest update to AdWords. It's designed to help businesses and marketers succeed in the constantly connected world we all live in. So it's about acknowledging how consumers engage and how we can adapt our advertising to meet that change. So basically, it's about people. Everything we do at Google is driven by people. We always aim to focus on the user because we believe that when we focus on the user, everything else falls into place. For AdWords, this means better results for people who receive ads and therefore for the businesses who place them. So imagine how we're placing context, I suppose, with relevance. When we thought about Enhanced Campaigns, we aim to make it easier for advertisers to better focus on the user. I'd like to show you kind of a reference point with this graphic here in terms of how people are engaging with multi-devices, but not just singular devices at the same time. So kind of highlighting that a little bit deeper, it's about acknowledging the multi-screen consumer. So as I said, we're in a constantly connected world. People move seamlessly between devices, whether at home, in the office, or on the go. People are the same as they were whenever they're engaging with content. So we don't want to limit it to particular mobile devices when people are searching. So to give you a bit of an idea of how that looks, we're mapping against, the consumer's path to purchase. Purchase intent isn't necessarily dedicated to particular devices when people begin their searching process. And we're acknowledging the fact that a search can occur at any point in time with any device and within proximity to any location. So kind of identifying here that there are no boundaries for how people search. And we're acknowledging as well that we don't want to be limited by boundaries on how people search. So kind of opening the field to which people engage. And as already mentioned, move seamlessly between devices, often using search as a bridge between gaps. So finally, thanks to these devices, we search from anywhere. We search for everything at any time, across devices, and from anywhere. And I suppose that's kind of the caption that I really want to nail home today, is that we don't want to be restricted by time, by place, or by device. And so the ethos behind Enhanced Campaigns is acknowledging that these three factors are what drive the majority of searches today and why we want to acknowledge how consumers engage with search and content and how we can target them accordingly. The common factor of this all is that when we search at the moments that matter to us, we want to be able to identify when people are searching the most. This may be a particular time of day or as we're doing something or just because we have some time to fill. It may be because we're in a particular place or looking for someone to come to us or trying to find somewhere to go. And it tends to be done on whatever device that's most handy at the time. How many times have you reached out for your phone on the sofa, for example, because your tablet or computer is just a little bit further away? So it's about acknowledging, again, this multi-device world, and we don't want to restrict particular engagements to singular devices. Whatever the moment and whatever the reason for that moment, we want our results immediately. And as consumer providers or touch points to consumers, we want to acknowledge that as Google as well, that we can actually reach people when I suppose things matter the most. So I kind of want to take you guys through an example here. I think the easiest way to look at this, and this is something that we've shared quite broadly since the launch of Enhanced Campaigns, is if, for example, somebody's looking for a pizza vendor and they're on the go. They're obviously using their device to search for this particular pizza vendor. So what matters the most is being able to find a pizza store or a delivery store while somebody's out and about engaging and searching on their mobile device. So then how that tapers down is, for example, they're more likely to be searching while they're out and about. We have the ability to identify when they're out and about under a singular campaign, be able to target that customer while they are using their mobile device with tailored creative. And as we go through this presentation today, I'll explain to you how that tailored creative comes to life and how we can actually manage the deployment of that creative specific to mobile and how we can manage it specific to desktop should that search habit change. To each person wants relevance, to each of their own moments. I think that's a really important point to make here. These moments are happening in their billions, and that's another important thing to note here. And it's extremely tedious, it's extremely tedious, yes, for advertisers to be drilling down and identifying how to contact these people individually as opposed to under a single campaign banner. And that's another change I want to walk you through as well. It's tremendously exciting for marketers at the moment based on how we're actually developing these things out. But I guess the next stage of what I want to walk you through is how we can take advantage of it. So moving on to our marketing implications section and addressing marketing implications for businesses and marketers. Okay. So if we're taking intent, for example, it's clear that user behavior and expectations have changed in a multi-screen world, so consistently connected world, as I mentioned before. Let's think about the implications in this world and what it has for businesses and marketers. Consumers' behavior certainly has changed, but the foundation of marketing and performance marketing, if we're being specific, remains the same. It's about driving results for the business by reaching consumers and prospective customers with the right message at the right time. So think about intent not as a singular entity, but intent matched with relevance and context. It's always been true that the more relevant we are with our message, the better our results will be and the better value we're driving for our customers as well. So anything we can drive greater around the relevance component of this is hugely powerful. So going deeper on that, when search came along, it changed the game. It brought intent to the relevance formula, exposing what's on someone's mind at that moment because they've signaled it in their query, if that makes sense. Intent tells us outright the moments that matter, so we as marketers can deliver a message more likely to matter itself, right then in that very moment. Intent is one of the most powerful cues we have for delivering a useful message. It truly exploded possibilities to be relevant. So it's about matching those two things together. Using the same example I mentioned before about the customer searching for pizza. Intent is great when it comes to addressing search, but it's almost singular or unsupported without it being matched with context. So bringing those two things together heightens response rate and strengthens results for advertisers. So going deeper again, the constantly connected world and our always-on lifestyle provides an additional set of signals, changing the game yet again. These are the new sets of cues that expose one's context, helping marketers be more relevant to the more holistic situation a customer finds themselves in. Right now, that means the ability to be relevant to the capabilities of the device he or she is using, what time it is, in which day of the week he or she is using it, and where he or she is located. So again, harking back to the 3 points I mentioned up front, device, time, and location being the 3 most critical improvements that are being baked into enhanced campaigns and AdWords moving forward. Just want to make sure that one's 100% clear. So this goes down a little bit deeper into the specific example. So if we have a look here, if the average consumer is searching for a pizza vendor on their phone during downtime, they're potentially on their way home from work at 7:30 p.m., we identify that the creative that's served at that point in time to make it most relevant is engineered towards calling the pizza vendor to identify the location of the pizza vendor within proximity to where that person's searching. Inversely, if somebody's searching on a laptop or a PC at home, we acknowledge that they're at home, we acknowledge that it's earlier in the day before lunch in this case, as the example writes, and we acknowledge that we need to change the message. So it's not so much a case of identifying where a pizza store may be, but more if a pizza store nearby can deliver. So it's identifying the need to change creative and match that creative to how that consumer is actually searched. Again, how we bring context to it. Hopefully that all makes sense to everyone. So where we'll go deeper in a moment is explaining how we can actually create now this kind of engagement or this kind of campaign at an AdWords level across the board. It no longer is a case of having to create separate campaigns that target mobile where you want to challenge consumers to engage in mobile-based advertising, or a situation with desktop. It's all the same, can be bundled all under one campaign. Another big change that we're enforcing with enhanced campaigns. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to highlight, and kind of more of the reasons why enhanced campaigns, is about the convergence of devices. So historically, and when I say historically, I mean over the past couple of years, we're talking about consumers using typically 3 devices at any one time, be it a laptop, a tablet, or their smartphone. More recently, more consumers have each one of these. But I guess it's more of a case of not just acknowledging how consumers engage with these products, but also acknowledging how brands are beginning to converge how consumers engage with these products. For example, touchscreen PCs, the phablet, which is the merger obviously between the tablet and the smartphone, and this constantly changing world where, as advertisers, if we don't keep up with the shifts and changes that occur with how consumers engage and how brands produce products to enable consumers to engage, we will get left behind. And it's a case of acknowledging that we, as advertisers, need to move with them and move with them in this evolution of technological engagement. So measurement must be more complex when it comes to conversion paths as well. So it's about identifying the moment to which someone searches, identifying where that specific search actually occurs, identifying how the conversion actually takes place, and then through EC or enhanced campaigns, being able to provide very clear, very transparent information regarding the reporting structure behind it. This will make more sense as we go through how the UI is actually shaped, which will come up quite soon. But basically, to highlight here, it's a case of not only are we providing greater insights to how consumers engage when it comes to search and demonstrating intent, but with enhanced campaigns, we're also taking the infrastructure of enhanced campaigns and applying it to how campaigns are constructed to provide really clear breakdowns of how we can actually track and optimize against campaigns to make things far more robust, far more cost efficient from a management perspective. Okay, so introducing enhanced campaigns. And I'm conscious that there's questions, everyone, as well. So I think for the purpose of time, given that we are behind a little, I might just go through this portion of the presentation. And then when we arrive towards the end part of here, we can refer back to the questions and start addressing some of them, because I've noticed there's quite a few that come in. And what I'll do is, because I'm sure that some of you can't see these questions, I'll read them out so that everybody knows what we're addressing, and then we'll address the questions from there. Okay. So basically the snapshot for how we introduce enhanced campaigns is this kind of caption here. It's about enhanced campaigns helps you reach people in the moments that matter the most across all devices with smarter ads that are relevant to intent and context. That's kind of the soundbite we're working on at the moment, and we think it really drives home the purpose behind enhanced campaigns. To go a little deeper on that, key features of enhanced campaigns, as we see them, are the new powerful tools, and as I mentioned, we'll go through those in a bit more detail, explaining how bid adjustments and targeting actually takes place under enhanced campaigns and how it actually beefs up what we've been doing previously with the AdWords interface. Smarter ads, again, referring to that pizza vendor example, how we can actually tailor our ads specific to customers based on their search habit. And finally, advanced reporting, meaning the reports that we can apply through enhanced campaigns to really toughen out our strategies when it comes to optimization and campaign performance and ROI. Okay, so powerful marketing tools for the multi-device world. This is how our bid adjustments work. Now, I will expect a few questions from this section. It's a little bit tricky, so I'll try and walk through it nice and slow and give you some different examples on how this actually works. So, for example, if you are running a default bid at $1, and I refer to the left-hand side of this slide, we have, obviously, I'm hoping that's a lady on her mobile phone. If your default bid is sitting at $1 and you want to target customers on mobile device more than you do customers on desktop, you have the opportunity to increase your bid or make a bid adjustment of 10%. Or you can actually go up as high as 300%. So with that bid adjustment, it means that you're pushing a greater volume of traction, greater volume of engagement opportunity to mobile device versus desktop, and it applies as a multiplier to your default bid CPC. So add the next layer to that, which would be at the same time you want to target by location. So you've identified that Palo Alto is a very significant location for targeting because you have a store in that location and you want to drive more foot traffic to that store. So you've identified that you want to increase a bid adjustment here by another 20%. So if you were to take California as an example and you target Palo Alto specifically, you can increase that particular location by 20% or more if you want to, or less, and apply it as a new multiplier to your default bid. The third line is time. So, for example, you've identified that Friday evenings, if it's a restaurant in Palo Alto, is when you're getting the highest amount of foot traffic, or when you're seeing a really strong increase in searches around that time for people looking for restaurants, you have the opportunity to, again, increase your bid at that time of day, at that time of week, so that you're mapping the 3 new variables built into Enhanced Campaign: device, location, and time. And the way this works is, again, taking the example of a $1 default bid, you take $1, you multiply it by, in this case, 10% or 1.1. Then you multiply it again by 20%, or in this case, 1.2. And then the third multiplier is 5%, or, any guesses? 1.05. So you put all these things together, multiply them against the default, and your new bid becomes 1.39, or $1.39. And that means that you're targeting, very specifically, these 3 factors. In kind, we take a different adjustment or bid adjustment type. We have a gentleman who is searching on a laptop or a mobile. You'll notice here it's 0%. 0 equals default. It means that we don't make any adjustments to it because we acknowledge that consumers for this particular brand or product are searching both on mobile and on desktop. So with that in mind, we keep it at 0, which maintains the default bid at $1. We acknowledge that in Mountain View, we don't actually want to target as many people in Mountain View because we haven't potentially got a store in Mountain View. So we dial down our bid adjustment by a negative 10%, which means that less 10% will focus on that particular part of the market. We acknowledge that Monday in the afternoon specifically is a really good time for us to drive traction outside of Mountain View. In this case, California would be the example, which means we dial it up by 20%. So we take our baseline bid of $1, multiply it by negative 10% or 0.9, multiply it again by 20% or 1.2, which gives us a new bid or a new CPC of $1.08 based on the filters we've applied. The purpose of showing you this example is because a multiplier is added to each of the bid adjustments you can make on device, time, and location, it doesn't necessarily mean that your CPC is going up. It can also come down if you want to exclude certain components of your campaign. Hopefully that example is nice and clear. Okay, so this is how we actually go through the bid adjustments for location. So as I mentioned, and for the purpose of this example, we're just going to use the United States. So here, or rather North America, so including Canada as well. So here we have a bunch of filters by particular location. So filtering through the United States, Canada, California, Mountain View, and Palo Alto, we acknowledge that independently, we don't want to make any changes to the United States as a whole, so we maintain it at a default bid of 0%. We acknowledge that Canada doesn't potentially drive as much traffic as we want it to or can possibly, so we dial it down by 10%. Acknowledging also that California is not a bad market for us to drive additional traffic, so we increase slightly by 5%. That Mountain View and Palo Alto, specifically in California, are great places within that state to drive more traffic, potentially if we have more stores there, or we're seeing greater traction from customers through our reports there. So we increase our bids in those two locations. And it's as simple as making that percentage adjustment. So when it comes to devices, again, we do the same thing. Our three options are as follows. Desktop and laptop computers, obviously bundled together. Mobile devices with full browsers separately. And tablets with full browsers. Now at the moment, our system is set up to reflect these three factors. But moving forward, one thing I want to acknowledge is that we will be bundling consumer segments with tablets and desktops together based on consumers' engagement with device. So for now, consider default options for desktop and tablets and dialing up your mobile to keep going with this example. So increasing mobile by 20%, which means that if you've got a really strong mobile landing page and you're driving a lot of traffic through mobile and the majority of your customers are on the go, you would definitely increase your mobile traction versus your desktop. Okay, to customize ads and extensions for mobile. This is what I was saying before. We have the opportunity to really tailor our messaging when it comes to targeting device, be it between desktop and mobile. So in this case, an example of what a customized ad for extensions for mobile would look like. So here, when you're actually engaging in the user interface, difficult for me to show you without actually being inside the user interface myself. But the new function that exists on the page when you're going into setting up your campaign is selecting device preference, mobile, a tick box, which allows you to specify that creative will appear on mobile only. So that means that when you're setting a campaign up at the campaign level across all devices, as you're drilling down the program and going through the UI and you start to create your specific ads by device, you can select a mobile-only ad as well, which means that you can have a click-to-call extension built into that ad, which means that you'll be able to drive traffic direct. Okay, scheduling extension. So this is along the same thread. So when you refer back to the UI, like we did a moment ago, and how we can actually make bid adjustments based on specific time, this is what it looks like when you're actually creating the ad itself. So scheduled extensions actually show you how you can be specific with time relative to how that ad actually comes to life. So for example, the two here are a Friday and a Saturday ad. And you'll notice that both of them are not mentioning the time, but they actually have a ready in 15 minutes option when it comes to building out the creative. This is to show you that if you have an off-peak time with a particular vendor that can manage delivery or phone calls, and you can showcase a short turnaround time within the creative, you can schedule a specific time of the day when that business has downtime to drive a greater volume of responses within that particular time. And then outside of this time, you have the option to change your creative again to run a more agnostic creative during peak hours. Okay, upgraded site links available for each ad group. This goes through in a bit more detail about how site links can actually come together in a bit more detail for ad groups based on how you want to target. For example, we're showing here a tennis example. So the 4 examples we have on the left-hand side here are tournament quality balls, pressureless tennis balls, kids foam tennis balls, and cage ball basket. So basically, cage ball basket. So basically, the example is showing you how under the ad group, you can start to filter out specific product types within that ad group. The other example I want to highlight here would be if you did it with an automotive account and you were focusing on particular car types or models under a car brand. It means you can actually start filtering things out specifically, but still build everything under the same campaign. The core thing here is to highlight that everything can still exist under one campaign without you having to silo out an individual campaign based on its targeting typology. Okay, so performance reporting for site links. This is where we get a bit more granular on how reports actually come to life. So here, we can actually start drilling out how our reports look based on their performance. For example, if you set a default campaign and made no adjustments to any bids, you can actually develop a legacy over a week or two of that campaign's performance. You can then retrofit the report over the top of that performance, then work out how to optimize or develop an optimized strategy. For example, if you apply the filters that are available through Enhanced Campaign to a live campaign that's been left as a default campaign, you can actually then ascertain whether you're getting a higher volume of traffic through mobile, whether a certain time of day is driving a greater volume of traffic, or whether a particular location is driving a greater volume of traffic, which means you can actually focus on those particular points of time, that particular device, or that particular location as part of your optimization strategy. So it's about using the reporting tool to then retrofit onto your existing campaign performance to drive a much stronger optimization strategy. Okay, and this just kind of gives you a breakdown of where we are now and where we're heading. So advanced reporting to measure more conversion types is coming soon. So at the moment, calls as conversion is not quite yet available. In some of our markets in EMEA and the US, this is something that's breaking ground now. We have no guarantee of when it will actually come to the Southeast Asian part of the world. However, for now, call extensions can certainly be built into our ads. Just measured as conversions is not quite yet available. In-store offers, obviously we can push through device particular offers at times of day based on particular customer or client that we're servicing. Digital downloads is something that we're looking to be pushing at around Q2 or Q3 this year, which means from an app perspective, we'll be able to measure app downloads as conversions moving forward, which is hugely exciting when it comes to actually mapping out ROI based on customers' engagement with content for particular advertisers. And then cross-device conversion, which is still in the air, hopefully landing this year as well, gives us the opportunity to actually measure conversion from one device to another, basically through a remarketing strategy. But again, it's still early days with that. Just like to highlight with you guys now what's actually coming and what we'd anticipate to land in the next 3 to 6 months. But more on that later. So as I mentioned before, with our legacy campaigns or how AdWords is set up currently, if you were targeting a particular customer, a particular store, or a particular advertiser at a particular time of day or on particular devices, you would need to set up several campaigns to manage the individual components of that total campaign, even if it sits under the same umbrella, targeting the same audience. Moving forward, Enhanced Campaigns allows you to set this up once and one time only, and then build everything out underneath it. So things are sitting in one neat space, meaning that optimizations are much easier, far more streamlined, all housed in the same UI. And I guess this, along with the new developments with the UI, with device, time, and location, are the nuts and bolts of enhanced campaigns moving forward. Just to be 100% clear. Okay, so just to summarize for you guys, marketing in a constantly connected world is kind of where we're coming from when it comes to enhanced campaigns. So conscious that we are seriously running out of time, I do want to afford some time for Q&A. So I just will quickly summarize where we're at with things right now. So in summary, we think it's great news for you as advertisers with enhanced campaigns. And it's our hope that you take advantage to provide a better experience for your ads and for your customers. As we map through this content, this is the first of 6 webinars that will be hosted across Southeast Asia. I understand they're very much a one-way form of interaction at the moment, and I do apologize for that. However, I think we have 200 to 300 attendees that have dialed into this, so I think if we're an open forum, we may have a bit of a challenge. All of this is being recorded, so for those that haven't been able to attend, or those that haven't been able to potentially take notes, which is totally allowed, you will each be sent a URL which gives you more information on this as well. And it will have this full recording, so that you have the deck and you have the annotations as well, to provide, I guess, a little bit more of a deeper understanding. The calendar will roll out, if it hasn't already, to each of you of what webinars are coming up next. So hopefully if you haven't received those, please just let us know, replying to the calendar invite you received for this particular webinar. I will push you to the next slide, which is basically a survey, just to give us a bit more feedback on how you're feeling things are going with enhanced campaigns and in terms of extra support and how this webinar's gone as well. I just want to be sure that you have the opportunity to feedback. I think it's very important. And finally, I think we have, unfortunately, 6 minutes, but hopefully time enough to address some questions. A colleague of mine, KK, may chime in at some point to help with some questions as well as a fellow subject matter expert. So what I'll do is just quickly refer to some of our questions here and see what we've got. So first question here is, can I also schedule an ad message? Right. And it's come from Mindshare Interaction. So scheduling for an ad message, we can schedule the creative itself for a particular time. So I'm assuming that's what you mean by scheduling for an ad message. So for example, if you want to schedule a mobile ad for a particular time, you can absolutely do that and run a separate ad for desktop at another time. That's completely allowed, and that's built within the UI as well. Hopefully that addresses your question. Scrolling down, okay, will we be able to select carrier preferences with the new settings? Okay, there's 2 answers to this question, and it's a very good question. First answer is yes, the second answer is no. So when it comes to display, so managing enhanced campaigns with display, we can absolutely target and select carrier preferences when it comes to engagement. However, with search, we cannot. So targeting OS and carrier is allowed with display, but it will no longer be able to happen with search. The reason is search has a narrower field of network, and people are demonstrating true display when it comes to, people are demonstrating true intent when it comes to search, whereas with, for example, GDN and our targeting capabilities there with display, we need to have that finite level of carrier targeting so that we can actually meet people where they're engaging with general content versus search. Again, I hope that addresses your question. Okay. Oh, someone has asked, require a recorded version of this Prezzo. Yes, it will be available on YouTube, and yes, everyone who has attended today can share the link, as I mentioned before, so everyone will get a nice copy of it. Okay, someone has asked a question about what about tablet app download. Can we target by tablet only? I know the mobile app we can, but not sure for tablet. The answer is we can't actually do that. For mobile, we can, yes. Tablet will be bundled with desktop when it comes to targeting. So mobile stands alone, and only mobile stands alone. Okay. Do we get in the report where we show different CPC based on device, time, and location, as this can help advertisers to adjust bidding in future? Absolutely. Basically, with the UI itself, you can apply those filters, as I mentioned, as a report. So when you're going through the UI based on the performance of your campaign, we can actually apply those filters to the campaign performance to then ascertain where you're seeing the spikes and then make bid adjustments accordingly. Yeah. So I've got a question here that has 3 question marks. Location extension in the ad copy? No. Location extensions won't appear in the ad copy itself. You apply the location extensions through the scheduling feature within the UI, but you apply them if you have a particular time that you want to focus on, where you're seeing a greater volume of traffic or would like to see a greater volume of traffic. So no, it won't appear. Will you be able to bulk edit bids? Absolutely you can. So again, I apologize for not being able to show you more detail on the user interface, and I seriously encourage you all to engage with the UI if you're all AdWords users now. So basically, bulk edits mean there's a new edit function that's been built into the UI, so you can actually right-click, copy, and edit, and go through the process as opposed to having to manually change everything under the old UI. So another improvement that we've been building into Enhanced Campaigns. Okay, question here. Google will determine how much will be the bid adjustment, and will it automatically do it for us? Okay, interesting question. And it's kind of answered with Conversion Optimizer or when you're doing any eCPC stuff. So basically, when you're going through the UI and you've examined where particular parts of your campaign are spiking, where you can apply a filter to it or a bid adjustment, when you enter into making any adjustments, you are hit with a prompt and an example and a calculation example, which shows you the impact it will have on your bid if you make an adjustment, but at the same time gives you a delta, a recommended delta of where the adjustment should be. So for example, if you're keen to increase, let's say KL in Malaysia, you're keen to increase KL but not sure by how much, when you go into the UI, it gives you a recommended delta of, say, -5% plus 20% of how much you should move it up or down. That's kind of the first part of the answer. The second part of the answer is, will Google do it automatically? With Conversion Optimizer, which can still be applied to any of your Enhanced Campaigns, Enhanced Campaigns is just another layer to that on top of it, you can actually set your maximum budget and a max CPC across the course of a campaign on a weekly, monthly, daily basis, whatever you like, and we'll ensure you don't go over that budget. But no, Google will not make automatic adjustments to your bids. You need to manually make adjustments to your bids based on device, time, and location if that's what you want. Okay, guys, we are at time. I apologize. I'm being moved on. So your questions have been recorded, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for joining today as well. As I said, please can you complete the survey? Can you also please look out for the link that will come from the video. And as a final reference point, I have a couple of links here for you guys, which should help you with some basic additional details when it comes to Enhanced Campaigns. So with that, I will leave it there, and thank you again very much for your time. I appreciate everyone jumping on. Thanks again.